7 at 7. 7 at 7. When I was 7 years old, I had this nightly routine that I had to undertake, which was our bedtime routine, right? And so at 7 o'clock, my parents would line us all up. I was the oldest, so I was the last one to go. And my mother would ask for three things from us. She wanted to make sure that we brushed our teeth, we washed behind our ears, and she gave us a big spoonful of cod liver oil. Now, I don't know about you, but cod liver oil was nasty. And so every night, 7 at 7, we would do the same thing. We'd line up and she'd make sure that we washed behind our ears, that we had brushed our teeth, and she gave us a big spoon of cod liver oil. Now, let's fast forward 30 years. Before I go to bed, what do you think I do? I brush my teeth, I wash behind my ears, and I do not drink cod liver oil, all right? But why do you think I do those things now? Because they were a routine when I was a kid, and now they are a habit. And all too often, people say, well, I need to change this habit, I want to change that habit, there's something about myself that I need to change. And if you want to make that change last, you must start with a routine. So let's talk a little bit about what a habit is, and then we'll talk about what a routine is, all right? So a habit is something that you've learned to do, and it's become automatic. It's a learned pattern of behavior that has become automatic. It's something you don't have to think about. Driving, for example. Not very many of us think, let me step on the brakes when I see red lights, right? It's almost an automatic thing. And driving has gotten so automatic for me sometimes that when I get home, I don't even remember how I got home. I don't remember the journey between where I left and arriving home. Has that happened to you? Yeah. Right? Because it's become automatic. But how have those things become automatic? They have been a part of a routine. And so to have good habits, you must have good routines. So look, what is a routine? A routine is simply scheduling behaviors that are not automatic. And you continually schedule those predetermined, pre-assessed behaviors that will lead you to your goals. Another thing that people often will say is, I have a bad habit or I have a good habit. And I want to be clear about what it is that makes a bad habit or makes a good habit. A bad habit is any behavior that leads you away from your goal. That is a bad habit. And so sometimes people say, well, I just can't quit smoking, or I just can't stop, eating this, or I wish I could work out, this way or that way. Part of the reason that you don't do those things is because not doing them gets you the reward that you want. And that if you started doing those behaviors, it might take away your reward. And so part of our motivation, part of the way that we need to think differently is we need to think about how do we start doing the things that are really important to us, as opposed to the things that we're supposed to do. Oftentimes we get confused with these two concepts, the truth and the facts, right? And I would like to offer to you that the truth has no relationship to the facts. Yeah, I know many of you are like, what is this guy talking about? All right, so I had a teacher that I loved and adored. Her name was Mrs. Young. And I love Mrs. Young for three reasons. One, she drove a tangerine orange Corvette, which was hot. And she also had green hair. And she was too young to be a punk rocker, so it must have been an old lady dye job gone bad. But one day I saw Mrs. Young in her tangerine orange Corvette, and I was like, oh, that's super hot, right? And so Mrs. Young, I appreciated her and I loved her for those two reasons. But the third reason was simply this, that I felt like she cared about me as a person, like she wanted the best for me. And so one day I took a test in her class, and this was one of the questions on the test. How many planets are there in the solar system? And in 1982, what was my answer? 9. If I were to ask a sixth grader today how many planets there were in the classroom, what answers might I get? Possibly 8, maybe 7, right? Or maybe even 9. But why the discrepancy? Because the facts have changed. Now, in 1982, there were 9 planets. In today's world, there are, any number of planets. But why is that? because planet Pluto is under some kind of discrepancy. Some people say it's a planet, some people say it's not a planet, but it seems to be under some controversy. Now, how is it possible that for thousands of years there were 9 planets, documented 9 planets, and all of a sudden there is controversy as to if there are 9 or 8 or even 7 planets? The truth? So let's look at what the truth is. The truth simply is what you know now. What you know about yourself, what you know about the environment you find yourselves in. Now, I know many of you are talking, thinking, well, there's the absolute truth, and there, the universe does its thing. I'm not necessarily talking about that stuff right now. But I do want you to think about, who is it that got to determine what the truth was? Who determined what the facts were? Scientists. And scientists are who? They're people, just like you and I. So if scientists get to determine what the truth is for us, who gets to determine the truth for us? Who should be determining the truth for us? Now, I remember growing up, when it's time to go to school, this big yellow thing pulled up, and I got on, and it took me to a place called school. Come to find out later that apparently I was in a special program called Head Start. Now, Head Start is a very interesting program because it is supposed to be for those people in poverty, those poor people who want to give their children a leg up or an opportunity to meet the grade level and meet the achievement level of their counterparts. But the thing that I thought was very interesting was that the facts in my family were that we did not have a lot of money. The facts were that we could be considered poor. The facts were that my parents were struggling college students trying to make a life out of the limited resources that they had exposed to them. Those were the facts. The truths were supposed to be that we would stay poor, that I would have a limited educational experience, that my environment, the neighborhood that I grew up in, should have been the dictator of my destiny. But in our house, we had a different truth. We established the truth. Because although we didn't have a lot of money, we had a lot of love. And I know some of you are cracking up about that, or you think that's pretty hokey. But I want to tell you that it's that love and that attention and that caring that my parents and my grandparents gave us that carried us through these storms. Because we got to determine what our truth is. The neighborhoods that we come from, the backgrounds that we have, the parents even that we've been given, do not have to determine what our truths are. Sometimes we get so caught up with the facts that we can't see or determine our own truths.